This review is going to be on Mistamere Castle and its completed version, Kill Bargle. Now, Mistamere Castle was originally written by Frank Mentzer and was included in the red box set that was released back in 1983. Now, Kill Bargle was the completed dungeon crawl that was written by Jason Bulmahn in September of 2007 in the final print issue of Dungeon Magazine. Now, for those of you that don't know, Frank Mentzer was the original writer of the BECMI series, which would later go on to become pretty much the rules cyclopedia. In the importance of writers for Dungeons & Dragons, I place Frank Mentzer probably right underneath Arneson and Gygax. Jason Bulmahn, on the other hand, is also not any sort of small fry. Even though this was found within a magazine, Jason Bulmahn would go ahead and, in 2009, release Pathfinder. Now, Mistamere Castle is supposed to be an introductory adventure for beginning players. On my many playthroughs of it, I have found that many of my parties of players at level 1 would die continuously before they even reached the castle. For transparency, I'm going to go ahead and mainly use the entries that are found in the Kill Bargle magazine adventure, which the entire first level is exactly how Mentzer wrote it in his 1983 adventure. Bulmahn also includes suggested creatures from the Mentzer adventure for both levels 2 and 3 of this dungeon crawl. And don't kid yourself, this is a dungeon crawl. It's only a 3-level dungeon crawl, but this entire adventure is just this sole dungeon. Onwards to level 1. The introduction is pretty much the same in both adventures. The player characters will start off in this inn called the Golden Dragon Inn, where they'll see a wanted poster for Bargle. For those of you that don't know, Bargle is an evil wizard. And this evil wizard went out of his way to kill someone who was important to your first character you built in the Red Box adventure. It's actually part of the reason why he's wanted. He's wanted for killing the cleric Alina. Rumors state he's in this castle, called Mistamere Castle, that is merely 3 miles away. And the only history we have about Mistamere Castle is it used to belong to a really powerful wizard named Gygar. However, once Gygar died, no one came over and took possession of his castle, and thus it fell apart and is now inhabited by a bunch of monsters, and apparently the evil wizard Bargle. Now, as the players approach the castle, they'll notice that much of the castle walls is actually in a state of ruins. There's holes in the walls, the doors are rotted, and the remains of the original doors happen to be laying down on the ground, right there in number 1. This will be the player's first encounter. It's a carrion crawler. This carrion crawler has the ability to put the entire party, it can pretty much take out the entire party. Let's go ahead and say they get past the carrion crawler. Their next problem they're going to have is going to be in section 2, which is going to be 10 kobolds that are going to try and fight them. This is sort of where the original adventure versus the 2007 adventure changes. In the 2007 adventure, the kobolds are armed with slingshots, while in the original adventure, they were armed with bows, making them a little bit more deadly. In both versions, though, the kobolds are supposed to make a run for it after they lose so many of their people, kobolds, one of those. Once they lose 6 kobolds, they make a run for it. The players will then find their way at the front entrance, which they will find unlocked. Now, looking at the map that I've placed in front of us here, the targets they're going to try and go towards is going to be targets number 13 and 16. These are the ways to get to the next level of the dungeon. However, there are some interesting bits in here. This level of the dungeon is generally inhabited by a series of low-level monsters, mainly kobolds. There's a ghoul, some zombies. Nothing too bad. There's no high-level kobold elite troops or anything like that here. However, if the players decide to, use the main hallway to get to part 19, say if they think that's the throne room, instead they'll find a table with what appears to be gold plates. The gold plates are not gold plates at all. They're regular plates that have a layer of yellow mold on them. And not just that, also in this room is 2 harpies. I've lost many a player to this singular room right here. Also of note of this level is rooms 10 and 12. You'll find that room 12 has an enchanted bed on it that players will fall asleep indefinitely on. And room 10 has a bed that will awaken anybody that's put to sleep in bed 12. I have also lost a player here because the beds actually come back as magical items, and the second players touch them, they need to take a check. Room 14 appears to have what appears to be a chest that's trapped underneath a log. It doesn't actually work though all the kobolds and monsters have kept away from it because they think it works. Players can actually just go up to 14's chest and just open it up. Rooms 15 and 18 both have a statue of a kobold in them. However, statue in number 15 is trapped, so if a player touches it, it spins around, damaging players. There's really nothing else in any of the rooms left in this level. I mean, there's some kobolds here and there. Like I said, there's a couple zombies, there's a ghoul. Nothing too dangerous for players to worry about. Their main job should be getting to numbers 13 and 16 to get to the bottom level. And now we're on to level 2 of this dungeon crawl. Now, depending on which set of stairs the players decide to choose to get down to level 2, they'll either end up in room 22 if they use number 13, or room 39 if they use number 16. 39 is inhabited by a bunch of oil beetles, while 22 has a statue of the wizard Gygar there. On said statue, there is a small inscription that reads that the orb is the key. If you're able to put a stone sphere into the hands of this statue, it will reveal a treasure chest inside of it. Inside this treasure chest is a +1 longsword and a scroll of invisibility. However, if the players decide to do it, the old-fashioned way by breaking it, they can also get access to these weapons. Now, the target that the players should be aiming for is to get to the stairs located in 41, 47, and this location that's currently unnumbered. This level is generally inhabited by a whole bunch of kobolds. There's like 40 to 50 of them in here, along with an infestation of oil beetles. Now, there isn't just regular kobolds here. You have elite kobolds that are about 5 times better at fighting than regular kobolds, which isn't saying very much, but it does bring them up to an actual threat level. And there are a few locations that do stick out here. Room 27 is actually going to be the throne room for the Kobold King. Inside this room, it'll be himself, along with 2 kobold elites and 4 regular kobolds. This Kobold King, or chieftain, apparently doesn't leave this room that much because he doesn't want Bargle to actually see him and give him orders, and he's also afraid if he's seen with other kobolds, Bargle may mistake one of them as being the chieftain, and if he did point out one of them as a chieftain, he would lose his spot, so he spends most of the time hidden inside this throne room. Room 29 is the chieftain's bedroom. Inside of here is a chest that's trapped with a poison needle. Treasure's not that much. There's some silver pieces and gold pieces and a wand of detect magic that may end up being useful for the players. Room 36 is a trap room. When players step in front of the western door, there is actually a plate on the ground that once the players step on it, a piston will come down from the ceiling and crush the player. It has the damage at doing 4d6 points of damage. 37 is the oil beetle layer, and 40 is a pit trap. The entire room is one gigantic pit trap. A 20-foot fall followed by 1d4 spikes per player. Each spike does 1d4 damage plus 2. 42 contains a gelatinous cube. Can't have a dungeon without one of those. And 43 consists of a room with a statue of Gygar in it also. Now, on the walls of this room is inscribed a bunch of musical notes that the players are supposed to attempt to play. Should they play it wrong, the statue will begin shooting the closest player onwards to the next one with Scorching Ray. Should they successfully defeat the trap and make their way to the hidden treasure, there is 2 iron chests in there. One iron chest is full of coins, and the other chest contains +1 chain, 2 potions of light wounds, cure light wounds, a scroll of fireball, and a scroll of protection from evil. Room 44 is a spider's den, and 45 consists of hanging food, which is the food that the spiders from the previous room are currently storing for use later. The rest of the rooms contain a variety of kobolds as guard rooms and the such. I'm not going to really go over each one of them, and with that I'm going to go on to the final level. Now, the final level of Mistamere Castle is completely different from the top two levels. There's no kobolds down here, there's no light creatures. This is where Bargle's going to make his last stand. And over here we got shadows, we got doppelgangers, and we got ogres before you even get to Bargle himself. For this level, I'm going to go over each room individually. Depending on which set of stairs the players decided to take, they'll end up in either rooms 49, 55, or 57. Room 49 is guarded by a single ogre. If the ogre is able to, he'll be able to warn the monsters in rooms 51 and 50 about the impending attackers. Now, should he pull this off, it's going to make those two rooms a lot more difficult. If he doesn't pull it off, players are going to be able to get a chance to surprise the monsters in room 50 and room 51. Room 50, which is like the sleeping chambers of the ogres, only consists of a single ogre inside there. If he wasn't warned, he'll be sleeping. If he was warned, he will be pretending to sleep and attack the player characters once they come inside the room. Room 51, however, is the den of the ogres. There is 3 ogres inside here. If they've been warned about the players, the ogres will set up an ambush when the players come in there. If they haven't been warned, the 3 will be enjoying a meal and must stand up and draw their weapons on the first round. 52 is a storage room with 2 secret doors. If the players are able to find the first secret door, it'll open up into a small room, which will have a small sack of gold with 50 gold pieces in it. This is mainly just to distract the players from finding the next secret door behind it, which makes it so they can bypass rooms 53, 54, pretty much all that group, and go straight into room 59 past those traps there. 53 appears to be a room with a giant tapestry taking up the entire eastern wall. Behind that tapestry is a door. Should the players touch that tapestry without saying "All hail Bargle," a 6-foot-tall crystal statue that looks like Bargle steps forth from the tapestry and attacks the players. Now, the actual entry in Kill Bargle says there's supposed to be 2 of them. However, the description only says 1, so it's up to you to decide how many you're going to throw at the players. 54 is an altar to Bargle himself, where his monsters leave him gifts for his blessing. Now, of interest inside this room is one of those gifts is actually a potion of Cure Light Wounds. That's it. I mean, you got some halfling fingers, some copper pieces, a dead rat. The only thing of actual use is a potion of Cure Light Wounds. 55 is another guard room that consists of 1 ogre. However, if the players search him, they'll be able to find a gold key on him that'll disarm the trap in the next area. Room 56 is a blade trap. It's a room that appears to only have a small column coming out of the center. If any player enters this room without first putting the gold key gained from room 55 into the tiny keyholes on the wall of both the north and south corridors, they will be hit with 1d4 blades per player, and each blade does 1d8 plus 3 points of damage. Getting a little bit of some Indiana Jones vibes out of this one. Still, a pretty deadly trap. 57 is one of the other rooms the players could have came down from the previous level down to this one, and 57 is inhabited by 2 shadows. So another little change for the players that have gotten too used to fighting kobolds and beetles the entire time. Now they get to fight a shadow. 58 is a pit trap, except for this one has a 60-foot drop. On the positive side, it doesn't have any spikes on it, so it's got that going for it. 59 is the room the players will be able to get to from room 52 if they found both of the secret doors. Now, those 6 figures you see right there, they're all statues. And 4 out of the 6 are living statues. The way it works is once the players walk to the middle 2, which are actually both, actual statues that don't come alive, the 2 on each end will then start their attack from their positions. The next room, room 60, is kind of interesting. In this room is 4 doors. You got an eastern door, you have a southeastern door, southwestern door, and a western door. Now each of these doors only opens up one way. Once a player steps into the small room behind each door, it will close behind them and reveal the secret door behind it, which will then open up itself. Except for the 2 southern doors, I'll go over those individually too. Once the player opens up the eastern door, steps into that room, the secret door will open up and allow you to get to room 61. Now, 61 is occupied by 2 doppelgangers that once the original door is opened will be warned that there is an intruder there, take on the appearance of Bargle, and then they will proceed to attack the player. If they're able to defeat the player, they will then assume that player's form and work with the rest of the party until they fight the actual Bargle and then backstab them. The southeastern door, once the player steps in there and closes it behind him, will teleport the players to room 58, right to the center where the trap is. So that'll probably be like, a 70-foot drop then. The southwestern door, once it closes behind the player, will instead drop an ochre jelly right on top of their head. The eastern door will open up into room 63, which is the false throne room. However, once the player closes the original door, and the secret door opens up and they go through it and close the secret door, from the ceiling of room 60, a skeleton will drop, making it appear as if the player was, completely dissolved and only a skeleton remained, and what was left of his corpse gets dropped into room 60. Now, we've already gone over room 61, which has the 2 doppelgangers in it. 62 is a false bedroom for Bargle. It has nothing of any real value on it, but it makes it look all fancy and all that snazz. Room 63 is a fake throne room, and on the dais stands an imposing figure of what appears to be Bargle. Now remember, more than likely at this point, there's only one player character in this room. Now Bargle will then begin to approach the characters, yelling all sorts of, evil wizard things, appear to cast some sort of protective spell on himself, and then attack the player with a dagger. Now, if that doesn't seem very wizardy to you, I agree, and the module tells you that this is also a doppelganger. If the doppelganger is able to pull off killing the player character inside the room, then he will also assume the identity of the dead player character. Room 64 is a fake treasury containing 5,000 copper pieces made to look like gold coins, along with a pair of crystal wands and a dozen glass vials containing colored water. None of this is real. The wands have absolutely no magical use. The glass vials containing colored water are not potions. This is just as fake as the doppelgangers the players have probably run into already. And now we're to room 65, where the actual battle is going to happen. This is the real throne room of Bargle, and Bargle, the level 7 wizard, is waiting for. And he doesn't hold back. The first thing he's going to do is he's going to summon a water elemental from the pool, and then proceed to attack the players with his most powerful spells first. Should he be knocked down to 5 hit points or less, he will then retreat back to his throne, hit a button on the left side of his throne, and then be sent through a slide behind it, so he'll be able to escape. If he isn't able to get to his throne, he'll instead use a potion of gaseous form, and then also use the tunnel to escape. There's also a pretty chance that during this entire battle, some of your players may find out that a couple of the other players with them aren't who they're supposed to be, and be attacked by doppelgangers. Now, should the players defeat Bargle, they'll be able to raid his treasures. Room 66 is his bedchamber. It's got a few magical items inside of it. Not really that much stuff. Should the players decide to try and follow the tunnel that Bargle used to escape, if he was able to pull it off, they will find themselves in the lair of a young red dragon. That, depending on how you decide to run it, may either A, fight for Bargle to defeat them, or maybe Bargle rode the dragon to escape. It's up to you. And that concludes the adventure. If I would make a suggestion, if you do run this adventure, when they're in room 60, I would suggest taking whatever player is currently using one of the doors, take them to a room separately to work out what happens. So that way, when the actual doppelganger exercise happens, it'll be a surprise to anybody that isn't a doppelganger. Extra points if you can get that same player to run the doppelganger NPC for you. For ratings, I'm going to give this an adventure rating of 4 out of 5. It's pretty fun. It's something you can just drop into any location you want to. No matter what world you're in, you can just have this castle that has an evil magic user that's taking up residence inside of it. It's got kobolds in the top levels, some ogres, some shadows, just some general normal old monsters to fight. There is no overarching story, but this has got enough twists and turns and traps in it to make it interesting. For value, I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. You can get the PDF of the BECMI Basic DMs guide for about $5 at DMs Guild. I'll put the link down in the description. But to get the rest of the adventure, you're going to have to get a PDF of Dungeon Magazine 150, which you can find easily enough on Google. I just can't put the link down there. For deadliness factor, this is getting a 4 out of 5. In the original version, my players couldn't even get past the first level. They just got straight up murdered by harpies all the time if they got past the 10 kobolds that peppered their bodies with arrows. The second level of the adventure is sort of meh. You got a bunch of kobolds to fight, maybe some beetles. The third level is where things are going to get a little bit dicey, because you get a lot of instances where it's single players versus a group of monsters. You have things that are disguised as other things. You got traps that are pretty devious. I mean, it's good. I like it. So 4 out of 5 for that. In general, I'll give this a 3 to 4 out of 5, so like a 3.5 out of 5. It's a good adventure. It's a good little thing just to throw into any sort of campaign world you got. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope this helps somebody out there, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.